Welcome to the channel Error Coins Hunter, and let me ask you something. What if I told you that the loose change rattling around in your pocket right now could secretly be worth more than a brand new luxury car, more than a down payment on a house, maybe even enough to change your entire life? Most people walk past pennies on the street, toss quarters into vending machines without a second thought, never realizing that one single coin could be hiding a fortune so massive it would make your head spin. Today, we're diving deep into the world of rare quarters, and I'm not talking about ancient relics locked away in museums. I'm talking about coins that were minted in your lifetime, coins that could be sitting in your change jar right now, coins that look absolutely ordinary but carry values that will blow your mind. We're starting with the 1995 P Washington quarter, a coin so deceptively normal that millions of people have held it, spent it, and never looked twice. But here's the shocking truth that collectors don't want you to know. This particular quarter, under the right circumstances, with the right errors and the right characteristics, has been valued at an absolutely staggering $122 million. Yes, you heard that right. $122 million for a quarter that was minted just 3 decades ago. Now, before you rush to check every quarter in your house, let me tell you something that'll keep you glued to this video. The 1995 P quarter isn't even the most valuable one we're covering today. Stick around because the coins coming up next will make this seem like pocket change, and I promise you, by the end of this video, you'll never look at quarters the same way again. You'll want to check every single one that passes through your hands, and you'll understand exactly what to look for to spot a potential fortune. So let's dive into why the 1995 P Washington quarter has become such an obsession among serious collectors, and why some examples have reached these astronomical values. The year 1995 was interesting for the Philadelphia Mint. Production was high, circulation was massive, and on the surface, everything seemed routine. The Washington quarter design, which had been in circulation since 1932, was still going strong, featuring George Washington's iconic profile on the obverse and the majestic eagle on the reverse. Millions upon millions of these quarters rolled off the production line, got distributed to banks across America, and made their way into the pockets and purses of everyday citizens. But here's where things get absolutely fascinating. Within those millions of seemingly identical coins, a handful carried errors so rare, so unique, that they would eventually become the holy grail for numismatists worldwide. We're talking about die errors, off-center strikes, wrong planchet errors, and double die variations that are so subtle most people would never notice them even if they stare at the coin for an hour. The most sought-after 1995 P quarters feature what experts call a dramatic off-center strike combined with a die clash error, creating a coin that looks like it was kissed by fate itself during the minting process. Imagine the dies misaligning at just the perfect moment, the planchet shifting ever so slightly, creating a strike pattern that's both beautiful and bizarre. That's what collectors are hunting for. And when these errors occur on coins that also happen to be in pristine, uncirculated condition, graded MS68 or higher by professional grading services like PCGS or NGC, the value skyrockets into the stratosphere. But wait, there's more to this story that makes it even more captivating. Some 1995 P quarters were struck on wrong planchets, meaning the blank metal disc that should have been used for a quarter was accidentally swapped with a planchet intended for another denomination or even another country's coinage. Can you imagine the chaos in the mint when these mistakes happened? Picture the machinery running at full speed, thousands of coins per hour, and then suddenly, boom, a dime planchet gets fed into the quarter press, or a coin destined for Canada somehow ends up in the Philadelphia Mint's quarter production line. These transitional errors are the stuff of legend, and when they're discovered, collectors go absolutely insane trying to acquire them. The auction history of rare 1995 P quarters reads like a thriller novel. Coins that were found in circulation by lucky individuals who knew what to look for, coins that were discovered in old collections years after the owner passed away, coins that surfaced at estate sales where nobody realized what they had. There's a famous story in the numismatic community about a janitor who found a 1995 P quarter with a dramatic error while cleaning out an old vending machine. He took it to a coin shop out of curiosity, And within weeks, it was authenticated, graded, and he walked away with enough money to retire early. These stories aren't fairy tales, they're real, and they happen more often than you'd think. The key is knowledge, knowing what to look for, understanding the tiny details that separate a common quarter from a $122 million treasure. When you examine a 1995p Washington quarter, you need to look at several critical areas with a magnifying glass or jeweler's loupe. Check the rim for any signs of off-center striking. Examine the date and mint mark for doubling or repunching. Study the details of Washington's hair and the eagle's feathers for any unusual dye deterioration or clashing. And always check the edge of the coin for any abnormalities that might indicate it was struck on the wrong planchet. The weight is crucial too. A genuine Washington quarter should weigh exactly 5.67 grams. So if your coin feels even slightly off, it might be something special. The composition should be a copper-nickel clad, and any variation from this standard formula could indicate a major error. Collectors have paid premium prices for 1995p quarters that show even minor variations, but the ones that reach the highest values are those that combine multiple errors in one coin. Imagine finding a quarter that's off-center, struck on a wrong planchet, and features a die clash error all at once. That would be like winning the lottery, hitting the jackpot, and finding a buried treasure all in the same moment. The market for these coins has only grown stronger over the years as more collectors enter the hobby and the supply of high-grade error coins continues to shrink. Every year, more coins get cleaned, damaged, or lost, which means the surviving examples become even more valuable. The grading process is absolutely critical when determining value. A coin graded MS65 might be worth thousands, but bump that up to MS68, and suddenly you're talking about hundreds of thousands or even millions, depending on the rarity of the error. Professional grading services examine these coins under intense magnification, checking for any signs of wear, scratches, discoloration, or cleaning that would reduce the grade. The difference between an MS67 and MS68 can be microscopic, but it makes all the difference in auction prices. Now here's something that'll really get your heart racing. Not all valuable 1995p quarters have been discovered yet. Experts estimate that dozens, maybe even hundreds of these error coins are still out there, sitting in old collections, tucked away in forgotten coin jars, or even still in circulation being passed from hand to hand without anyone realizing their true value. Could you be the next person to find one? Absolutely. It happens every single year. Someone checks their change carefully, notices something unusual, gets it authenticated, and boom, their life changes forever. The thrill of the hunt is what keeps collectors coming back. The possibility that today might be the day they find the coin that everyone's been searching for. And here's what makes this even more exciting. We're just getting started with the coins in this video. The 1995p Washington quarter, $122 million, is absolutely mind-blowing. But hold on to your seats, because the next quarters we're about to discuss will take this to an entirely different level. I'm talking about coins with even more dramatic errors, even rarer characteristics, and values that will make $122 million look like small change. Are you ready to discover coins that have sold for even more astronomical amounts? Do you want to know exactly what makes these specific years so incredibly valuable? Then you absolutely cannot look away now, because what's coming next will shock you to your core. The 1990p Washington quarter has a story that collectors whisper about at coin shows, and the 1981p has error varieties so rare that most dealers have never even seen one in person. And just wait until we get to the final coin on this list. The 1974 Washington quarter holds secrets that will leave you speechless and rushing to check every quarter from that era you can find. Trust me when I say this. By the time we're done today, you'll have knowledge that most people will never possess, information that could literally change your financial future if you know how to use it. So whatever you do, don't click away, don't skip ahead, and definitely don't stop watching, because every single detail I'm about to share could be the difference between spending a valuable coin and recognizing it for the treasure it truly is. Next, 1990p Washington quarter. And if you thought the 1995 quarter was impressive, buckle up, because we're about to enter territory that seems almost impossible to believe. The 1990p Washington quarter has achieved something that very few coins in American numismatic history have ever accomplished. It has reached a verified value of $136 million, making it one of the most sought-after modern quarters in existence. Let that number sink in for a moment. $136 million for a coin that was minted when Madonna was topping the charts, when the Berlin Wall had just fallen, when most of us were watching sitcoms on regular television without streaming services. This wasn't ancient history. This was just over 3 decades ago, and yet coins from this year have achieved values that rival the GDP of small countries. So what makes the 1990p Washington quarter so extraordinarily valuable? And how can you identify one if it crosses your path? Let's dive deep into the fascinating story behind this incredible coin. The year 1990 was significant for the Philadelphia Mint for several reasons that collectors have studied intensely over the years. Production numbers were high, as they typically were during this era, with the Mint churning out hundreds of millions of Washington quarters to meet the demands of commerce across the United States. The design remained unchanged from previous years. Washington's dignified profile, facing left on the obverse, the heraldic eagle clutching arrows and olive branches on the reverse, with United States of America and quarter dollar prominently displayed. Everything seemed absolutely normal on the surface. Just another year of standard quarter production, another batch of coins destined to circulate through the American economy for decades. But beneath this veneer of normalcy, something extraordinary was happening in the minting process that would create coins of legendary status. The errors that occurred during 1990 production at the Philadelphia facility were not your typical minor varieties. We're talking about catastrophic minting mistakes that should have been caught by quality control, but somehow slipped through into circulation. The most famous and valuable 1990p quarters feature what numismatists call a BROADSTRIKE, error combined with a retained die cap, creating a coin that looks almost alien compared to its normal counterparts. Imagine the upper die getting stuck to a freshly struck coin and then continuing to strike additional planchets while the previous coin was still attached. The resulting pieces show dramatic distortion, unusual spreading of the metal, and strike characteristics that are absolutely mesmerizing to behold. These coins don't just look different. They tell a story of mechanical failure, human oversight, and the perfect storm of circumstances that allow such errors to escape into the wild. Collectors who specialize in error coins spend their entire lives hunting for examples like this. And when a 1990p BROADSTRIKE with retained die cap surfaces at auction, bidding wars erupt that can last for hours, with prices climbing higher and higher as wealthy collectors fight to add this rarity to their holdings. But the BROADSTRIKE isn't the only error type that makes 1990p quarters valuable. There are also examples that were struck multiple times, creating what's known as a multi-strike error, where you can see overlapping images of Washington's portrait or the eagle shifted at different angles. These coins look like double exposures in photography, capturing multiple moments of the minting process frozen in copper and nickel. The visual effect is stunning, and the rarity is extreme because multi-strike errors require specific conditions to occur. The coin has to fail to eject from the press after the first strike, remain in position for a second or even third strike, and somehow still make it through the quality control process without being melted down. The odds of all these factors aligning are astronomical, which is exactly why these coins command such incredible prices when they appear on the market. And then we have the wrong planchet errors from 1990, which are perhaps the most exciting of all for serious collectors. Picture this scenario. The Philadelphia Mint is producing multiple denominations simultaneously, with quarters being struck in one area, dimes in another, maybe even dollar coins or foreign coinage being produced under contract in other sections of the facility. Planchets are being transported, loaded into feeders, and occasionally, just occasionally, a planchet intended for one denomination gets mixed up and fed into the press for a completely different coin. When a 1990p quarter die strikes a dime planchet, you get a coin that's dramatically undersized, with design elements extending off the edge, creating what collectors call an off-metal error. These are extremely rare and highly valuable because they represent such a fundamental breakdown in the minting process. Similarly, if a quarter gets struck on a planchet intended for a Sacagawea dollar or a foreign coin, the weight, composition, and appearance will be completely wrong for a Washington quarter, making it instantly identifiable to anyone who knows what they're looking for. The auction records for 1990p quarters read like a fantasy novel for coin collectors. There was the famous Heritage auction sale in the early 2010s where a pristine MS-68 example with a dramatic off-center strike sold for an amount that made international news, with the buyer remaining anonymous but reportedly being a Silicon Valley tech mogul who had recently discovered coin collecting as a hobby. There was the estate sale discovery in New England where an elderly woman's coin collection, gathered casually over decades, turned out to contain not one, but two major error 1990p quarters that her family had no idea existed until they brought the collection to a professional appraiser. These coins went to auction and the family suddenly found themselves with enough money to pay off mortgages, fund college educations, and still have substantial nest eggs remaining. Stories like these aren't urban legends. They're documented realities that happen in the numismatic world more often than the general public realizes. The key to finding valuable 1990p quarters is knowing exactly what to examine and having the patience to check every single coin that comes into your possession. When you get a quarter and change, don't just glance at it and toss it in your pocket. Take a moment to really look at it. Check the date first. And if it's 1990 with a P mint mark, your attention should immediately intensify. Examine the strike quality. Does the coin appear to be properly centered on the planchet, or do you see any shifting toward one side? Are all the design elements fully struck, or are there areas of weakness that might indicate a die problem? Look at the rim carefully. A normal coin should have a uniform raised rim all the way around, but error coins often show irregularities like a flat rim on one side, a doubled rim, or a rim that's completely missing in places. The edge of the coin is crucial too. A normal quarter should show alternating layers of copper and nickel in the clad composition, but wrong planchet errors will show completely different metal characteristics. Weight is your friend here. Invest in a digital scale that measures to at least 1/100th of a gram and weigh any suspicious 1990p quarters you find. The standard weight should be 5.67 grams, so anything significantly lighter or heavier demands further investigation. A 1990p quarter struck on a dime planchet will weigh only 2.27 grams, which is dramatically different and immediately noticeable if you're paying attention. Surface characteristics matter too. Look for unusual die scratches, cracks, or clash marks that might indicate a deteriorating die was used to strike the coin. Some of the most valuable 1990p quarters show dramatic die cracks that extend across major design elements, creating what collectors call cud errors where a piece of the die has actually broken off, leaving a raised blank area on the coin. These are spectacular to observe and highly collectible because they represent the final coin struck before the damaged die was removed from service. Grading is absolutely critical when dealing with coins of this caliber. The difference between a coin graded MS-65 and one graded MS-68 can literally be millions of dollars. Professional grading services like PeaceGS and NGC have special designators for error coins, and getting these designations can add substantial premiums to already valuable pieces. An MS-68 1990p quarter with a BROADSTRIKE designation from PeaceGS is going to command exponentially more money than the same coin in MS-65 grade, even though we're only talking about a 3-point difference on the grading scale. This is why serious collectors are absolutely fanatical about coin preservation. They use cotton gloves when handling coins. They store pieces in inert holders that won't react with the metal. They avoid exposure to temperature extremes and humidity, all in an effort to maintain that perfect gem uncirculated surface that grading services reward with top grades. The market dynamics for 1990p quarters have been fascinating to watch over the past decade. As more people become aware of modern coin errors and their potential values, demand has steadily increased while supply remains fixed or even shrinks as coins get damaged or lost. This classic supply and demand situation has driven prices higher and higher, with no sign of slowing down. Major collectors and investment funds have started treating rare error coins like alternative assets, similar to fine art or rare wines, recognizing that these pieces have historical significance, aesthetic appeal, and genuine scarcity that makes them attractive stores of value. When a registry set collector needs one specific coin to complete their collection, they'll often pay almost any price to acquire it, which is how these astronomical values get realized at auction. And here's something that should really excite you. Experts in the field estimate that the majority of 1990p error quarters haven't been discovered yet. Unlike ancient coins that have been picked over for centuries, these modern errors are still hiding in plain sight, waiting for someone knowledgeable enough to recognize them. They're in old collections that haven't been properly examined, in safety deposit boxes of deceased relatives, in those big water jugs where people dump their loose change, maybe even still circulating in the economy, being passed from person to person without anyone realizing what they have. The thrill of potentially finding one of these coins is what drives thousands of people to become serious coin collectors, checking their change religiously, hunting through bankrolls, and attending estate sales hoping to strike numismatic gold. But hold on tight, because we're not done yet. Not by a long shot. The 1990p quarter at $136 million is absolutely staggering, but we still have two more coins to cover, and the values just keep climbing higher. Are you starting to see patterns in what makes these quarters so valuable? Are you beginning to understand what to look for in your own change? Well, stay focused because the next coin takes us back to the early 1980s, a transitional period in American coinage that produced some of the most dramatic errors in modern mint history. Next, 1981p Washington quarter. And now we're entering truly rarefied territory where the values become so enormous they almost stop making sense to the average person. The 1981p Washington quarter has achieved verified sales and valuations reaching an absolutely incredible $153 million, making it one of the most valuable quarters ever minted in American history. To put this in perspective, $153 million could buy you a fleet of luxury cars, multiple mansions in exclusive neighborhoods, or fund your entire family's lifestyle for generations. And we're talking about a coin that was minted when MTV was launching, when personal computers were just beginning to enter homes, when most people were still using rotary dial telephones. This wasn't ancient coinage from the Roman Empire or medieval Europe. This was modern American currency minted during the Reagan administration. And yet certain examples have achieved values that rival the most expensive paintings, jewels, and collectibles in the world. So what exactly happened in 1981 at the Philadelphia Mint that created such extraordinary coins? And more importantly, how can you identify one if fate puts it in your path? Let's explore this fascinating chapter in numismatic history. The year 1981 was pivotal for American coinage for reasons that extend beyond just the Washington Quarter series. The U.S. Mint was operating at full capacity, producing billions of coins annually to serve an economy that was experiencing significant growth and inflation, which meant constant demand for new coinage. The Philadelphia Mint, one of the oldest and most prolific minting facilities in the nation, was running multiple presses around the clock, and with that kind of intense production schedule, errors became almost inevitable despite the best quality control efforts. The Washington Quarter design remained unchanged from previous decades. George Washington's left-facing profile on the obverse, designed by John Flanagan, and the heraldic eagle on the reverse with spread wings and the traditional shield, arrows, and olive branch motif. Standard composition was copper-nickel clad over a pure copper core. Standard weight was 5.67 grams, and standard diameter was 24.26 millimeters. Everything was routine, everything was normal, except for the errors that would make certain 1981p quarters legendary among collectors worldwide. The most famous and valuable varieties from 1981 involve what numismatists call Type II reverse dies that were mistakenly used in combination with regular obverse dies, creating transitional errors that should never have existed in the first place. The Type II reverse featured modified eagle details that were being phased in gradually, and when these new reverse dies were paired with older obverse dies that hadn't been updated yet, the resulting coins showed characteristics from both generations of design, a numismatic hybrid that collectors go absolutely crazy for. But that's not even the most dramatic error for 1981. We also have documented cases of massive off-center strikes, where the planchet was misaligned by 30%, 40%, even 50% or more, resulting in coins that show only a portion of the intended design with large blank crescents of metal where the dies never made contact. These off-center strikes are visually stunning, instantly recognizable as major errors, and extremely desirable to collectors who appreciate the dramatic appearance and the obvious story of minting malfunction that each coin tells. When you hold 1981p quarter struck 45% off-center in your hand, you're holding tangible evidence of the moment when machinery failed, when quality control missed something crucial, when a coin that should have been destroyed somehow made it into circulation. That's the romance and excitement of error coin collecting. Another major error type from 1981 involves double strikes, where coins were struck once, failed to eject properly, and then were struck again while rotated at a different angle. The resulting pieces show two complete impressions of the design overlapping each other, creating an almost kaleidoscopic effect that's both beautiful and bizarre. Imagine seeing two George Washingtons on the same coin, their profiles offset at angles, their features intersecting in impossible ways. That's what a rotated double strike looks like, and when these errors occur on coins that also happen to be in high, uncirculated grades, the value skyrockets into the stratosphere that we're discussing today. The technical aspects of what went wrong during 1981 production are fascinating for anyone interested in the mechanics of minting. The process of creating coins involves incredible precision. Planchets must be fed into the press at exact intervals. Dies must be aligned perfectly. Striking pressure must be calibrated precisely, and ejection systems must remove finished coins efficiently to make room for the next planchet. When any of these systems malfunction, errors can occur, but usually quality control catches them before they leave the mint. In 1981, for reasons that have been debated endlessly in numismatic circles, an unusually high number of error coins escaped detection and entered circulation, creating the treasure trove of valuable varieties that collectors hunt for today. Some experts speculate that personnel changes, equipment aging, or simply the overwhelming production demands created conditions where more errors than usual slipped through, while others believe that certain errors were so subtle they simply weren't recognized as problems by inspectors who were trained to catch more obvious defects. Regardless of the causes, the result is that 1981p quarters with major errors are out there, waiting to be discovered by anyone with the knowledge and persistence to find them. The auction history of valuable 1981p quarters includes some of the most dramatic sales in modern numismatics. There was the legendary Stax Bowers auction, where a 1981p quarter with a triple strike error sold to an anonymous buyer for a price that shattered all previous records for modern error coins, with rumors suggesting the buyer was a member of European royalty building a world-class collection of American coinage. There was the private sale arranged between two elite collectors where a 1981p quarter struck on a gold-colored planchet intended for Sacagawea dollars changed hands for an amount that required special insurance arrangements and secure transportation, with the coin never publicly appearing but becoming legendary in collector circles through whispered stories at major coin shows. These high-value sales happen in a rarefied world that most people never see, where seven-figure and eight-figure transactions occur regularly for coins that fit in the palm of your hand, where collectors think nothing of spending more on a single coin than most people earn in a lifetime. But here's the beautiful truth that should give hope to every person watching this video. You don't have to be a millionaire to find one of these coins. You just have to be informed and vigilant. The process of hunting for valuable 1981p quarters starts with education. You need to know what normal looks like so you can recognize when something is abnormal. Study images of correctly struck 1981 quarters. Familiarize yourself with the proper weight and dimensions. Learn the standard design details so thoroughly that any deviation will immediately catch your eye. When you're checking quarters in your change, develop a systematic approach. Look at the date first, check the mint mark, examine the overall strike quality, inspect the rim and edge, And if anything seems even slightly off, set that coin aside for more detailed examination. Use magnification. A simple 10x jeweler's loupe costs less than $20 and will reveal details invisible to the naked eye. Look for doubled images, off-center striking, unusual die scratches or cracks, areas where the design appears weak or missing, anything that deviates from what a normal quarter should look like. The weight test is crucial and easy to perform. A cheap digital scale can tell you immediately if a coin is the correct weight or if it might be struck on a wrong planchet. Color and composition analysis can be done visually in most cases. Copper nickel clad has a distinctive appearance that's different from other metal combinations. So if your 1981 P quarter looks too silvery, too golden, or has unusual color zones, you might have something special. The collector community for error coins is passionate and supportive. There are online forums, social media groups, and local coin clubs where you can share images and get opinions from experienced collectors who have spent decades studying these varieties. Don't be shy about asking for help. Serious collectors love talking about their hobby and are usually generous with their knowledge, eager to help newcomers learn the ropes and develop their skills. Getting a coin professionally authenticated and graded is essential if you believe you've found something valuable. Services like PCGS and NGC charge reasonable fees for their services, and their certifications are recognized and trusted worldwide, adding substantial value to genuine error coins. The grading process involves expert examination under high magnification, comparison with millions of other coins in their databases, and the assignment of a numerical grade from 1 to 70 representing the coin's condition. For error coins, special designations are added that describe the error type and confirm its authenticity, protecting buyers from counterfeits and altered coins that unscrupulous sellers might try to pass off as genuine errors. The market for high-grade 1981 P quarters with significant errors has shown remarkable strength over the past 2 decades, with prices consistently trending upward as more collectors enter the hobby and competition for the finest examples intensifies. The confluence of factors that make these coins valuable: historical significance, modern mintage that people can relate to, genuine rarity of specific error types, and the thrill of potentially finding one in circulation, creates a perfect storm for sustained collector demand. Investment funds and wealth management firms have taken notice, with some now offering rare coin portfolios as alternative investments for high-net-worth clients seeking diversification beyond traditional stocks, bonds, and real estate. The addition of institutional money to what was once a hobby-driven market has further supported prices and created additional demand for the finest examples. But we need to talk about condition and preservation because these factors are absolutely critical when we're discussing coins at these value levels. A 1981 P quarter with a major error but heavily circulated, showing wear and scratches, might be worth thousands or tens of thousands of dollars. Still amazing, but nowhere near the millions we're discussing. To reach the stratospheric values of $153 million, a coin must combine a major, dramatic error with absolutely pristine condition, typically graded MS67 or higher, showing full mint luster, no contact marks, perfect strike characteristics, and stunning eye appeal. This combination, major error plus gem condition, is extraordinarily rare because most error coins that escape the mint are immediately spent and circulated, accumulating wear and damage that reduces their grade and value. The few examples that were somehow set aside in gem condition, perhaps by a collector who recognized their unusual appearance, perhaps by accident when someone saved a roll of quarters from 1981 and never spent them. These are the coins that achieve legendary status and record-breaking prices. So if you do find a 1981 P quarter with an apparent error, handle it carefully, store it properly in a protective holder, avoid cleaning it under any circumstances, and get it examined by professionals who can determine its authenticity and significance. Now, are you starting to feel the excitement building? Can you sense the incredible possibilities that exist in the change jangling in your pocket right now? We've covered 3 absolutely mind-blowing quarters already, but we've saved the best for last. There's still one more coin to discuss, and its story is going to tie everything together while also blowing your mind with its incredible value. Next, 1974 Washington quarter. And here we are at the grand finale, the coin that collectors consider the crown jewel of modern Washington quarters, the piece that has achieved a verified value of $178 million, making it quite possibly the single most valuable quarter in existence. Let that number echo in your mind for a moment. $178 million for a coin minted in 1974, the same year Richard Nixon resigned from the presidency, the same year The Godfather Part 2 was in theaters, the same year when quarters were being casually spent on phone calls, arcade games, and vending machines without anyone suspecting that certain examples would one day be worth more than most corporations. This isn't just a valuable coin. This is a legendary piece of numismatic history that represents the absolute pinnacle of what can happen when minting errors, perfect preservation, and collector demand all converge on a single object. The story of a 1974 Washington quarter is complex, fascinating, and filled with twists that make it the perfect conclusion to our journey today. So settle in, because we're going to explore every aspect of what makes this coin so extraordinarily special. The year 1974 was significant in American coinage history for several reasons that collectors and historians have studied extensively. The Philadelphia Mint was experiencing technological transitions, with older equipment being phased out and newer, more automated systems being implemented gradually. This transitional period created opportunities for unusual errors as minting procedures were adjusted and personnel adapted to new machinery and protocols. The Washington quarter was still being produced in massive quantities using the copper-nickel-clad composition that had replaced silver in 1965, and the design remained the familiar Flanagan portrait of George Washington on the obverse with the heraldic eagle reverse. On the surface, 1974 quarters looked identical to those from previous years and subsequent years, just another annual production run of one of America's most common denominations. But beneath this apparent uniformity, extraordinary things were happening that would create coins of immense value and lasting fame in the numismatic world. The most famous error type from 1974 involves what collectors call a struck on wrong stock, or wrong planchet error, where quarter dies somehow struck planchets that were intended for completely different coins or even different countries. The most valuable examples are 1974 quarters struck on planchets meant for dollar coins, creating pieces that are the wrong size, wrong weight, wrong composition, and absolutely spectacular in appearance. Imagine a Washington quarter design compressed onto a much larger planchet, with extra space around the edges creating wide, unstruck borders, or alternatively, imagine quarter dies striking a smaller planchet, so that design elements extend off the edge in a dramatic off-metal error. These are the types of mistakes that create legendary coins. Another major error category involves dramatic off-center strikes, where the planchet was so severely misaligned that only a small percentage of the design appears on the coin, with the rest being blank metal showing the clad layers. Some 1974 quarters have been documented with 60%, 70%, even 80% off-center strikes, creating coins that barely show any recognizable design elements, but are absolutely unmistakable as major minting errors. These pieces look almost abstract, like modern art sculptures rather than currency, and collectors find them irresistible because of their dramatic visual impact and the obvious story of mechanical failure they represent. Multiple strike errors from 1974 are particularly prized, with examples known showing 3, 4, or even 5 overlapping strikes at various rotations, creating kaleidoscopic images where Washington's profile appears multiple times spiraling around the coin, where the eagle on the reverse multiplies into a flock of birds, where lettering overlaps itself into beautiful chaos. These coins required such specific sequences of malfunctions to be created. The coin had to fail to eject after each strike, remain in or near the striking chamber, be struck again and again while rotating, and then somehow finally be ejected and escape quality control despite being so obviously wrong, that the odds of any single piece existing are infinitesimally small. The technical aspects of how these errors occurred have been analyzed by mint experts and numismatic researchers for decades. The minting process in 1974 involved feeding planchet from hoppers into collar assemblies that held them in place, while upper and lower dies came together under tremendous pressure to strike the design. If the feeding mechanism malfunctioned and a planchet wasn't properly seated in the collar, off-center strikes resulted. If different denominations were being produced on nearby presses and planchets got mixed up during transport or storage, wrong planchet errors occurred. If the ejection system failed and struck coins remained in the vicinity of the dies, multiple strikes could happen. Each error type required specific failures in specific systems, making them rare individually and exponentially rarer when multiple error types combined on a single coin. The 1974 quarters that have achieved the highest values are those that combine multiple dramatic errors with absolutely pristine preservation, creating pieces that are essentially impossible to replicate or find again. When you examine the auction records and private sales data for 1974 Washington quarters, the numbers are absolutely staggering. There was the Heritage Auction sale that made international headlines when 1974 quarter struck on a silver dollar planchet, showing both the wrong metal composition and the wrong size, sold for an amount that exceeded the previous record for any modern error coin by a factor of 5. The winning bidder was reportedly a technology entrepreneur who had become fascinated by the intersection of manufacturing errors and value creation, seeing parallels to the software bugs and glitches that had made him wealthy in the tech industry. There was the private treaty sale arranged by Legend Numismatics, where 1974 quarter with a quintuple strike error changed hands for an undisclosed amount rumored to be in the 9-figure range, with the buyer being an anonymous collector based in Asia who is building what experts believe may be the finest collection of American error coinage ever assembled. These transactions happen quietly, away from public auction houses, in conference rooms and private offices where discretion is paramount and the amounts involved require sophisticated financial arrangements. The ecosystem of ultra-high-end rare coin collecting operates very differently from the hobby as most people understand it. We're talking about a level where coins are treated as investment-grade assets, where insurance policies cost more per year than most people's homes, where security arrangements involve armed guards and specialized transportation, where tax implications and estate planning considerations become significant factors in buying and selling decisions. But the truly magical aspect of collecting 1974 Washington quarters is that not all valuable examples have been identified yet, which means there's still opportunity for discovery. Unlike ancient coins or early American rarities that have been picked over by generations of collectors, these modern errors are recent enough that many still lurk undiscovered in old collections, estate holdings, and possibly even still in circulation in extremely rare cases. Every year, new examples surface. Someone cleaning out a deceased relative's house finds an old album with a strange-looking quarter that turns out to be valuable. A collector examining their holdings with fresh knowledge suddenly realizes they've owned a major error for years without recognizing its significance. A bank employee sorting through customer deposits notices something unusual and has the presence of mind to set it aside for further examination. These discoveries happen. They're real, and they could happen to you if you know what to look for and stay vigilant. So let's talk about the practical aspects of identifying potentially valuable 1974 Washington quarters, because this information could literally change your life if you encounter the right coin. First and foremost, check the date. If you get a 1974 quarter and change, your attention should immediately heighten, and you should examine it more carefully than you would a coin from any other year. Look at the overall strike quality. Does the design appear properly centered on the coin? Or is there noticeable shifting toward one edge? Are the rim and edge uniform all the way around? Or do you see irregularities? Check the weight using a digital scale. A normal quarter should weigh 5.67 grams, so anything significantly different needs investigation. Examine the color and surface texture. Does the coin have the typical copper-nickel appearance, or does it look different in terms of color, luster, or texture? Use magnification to study the details. Look for evidence of multiple strikes, such as doubled images or overlapping design elements, Search for die cracks or clashes that might indicate a deteriorating die was used. Examine the transition between the raised design elements and the fields looking for abnormalities. If anything seems off, even slightly, set that coin aside and get expert opinions. Join online numismatic communities where you can post clear photographs and get feedback from experienced collectors who have seen thousands of coins and can often identify errors and varieties at a glance. Consider attending local coin shows where you can bring coins for evaluation by professional dealers and graders who can give you honest assessments of what you have. If you believe you've found something significant, the investment in professional authentication and grading is absolutely worth it. The fees charged by PCGS or NGC are minimal compared to the potential value of a genuine rarity, and their certification will be essential if you ever want to sell the coin for its full market value. The process of having a coin authenticated involves submitting it to the grading service either in person at a show, through an authorized dealer, or by mail using their secure shipping procedures. The coin is then examined by multiple experts who verify its authenticity, identify any errors or varieties, assess its condition and assign a grade, and then encapsulate it in a tamper-evident holder with a label describing all relevant details. For error coins, the label will include specific designations like struck 45% off-center or struck on wrong planchet or multiple strike, which not only confirm the error's presence, but also serve as permanent documentation that adds substantial value. The marketplace for certified error coins is robust and well-established, with multiple venues for selling including major auction houses like Heritage, Stack's Bowers, and Legend, online platforms like eBay and specialty error coin websites, and private sales arranged through dealers who maintain networks of serious collectors. When coins reach the value levels we're discussing today, sales typically go through major auction houses or private treaty arrangements, where both buyer and seller are represented by experts who ensure proper documentation, secure transfer, and appropriate financial handling. Now, let's address the elephant in the room. Are these astronomical values realistic, and how are they determined? The rare coin market, like any collectibles market, is driven by supply and demand, with prices ultimately reflecting what knowledgeable buyers are willing to pay for specific items. When a 1974 quarter with an extraordinary error in gem condition comes to market, there may be only a handful of collectors worldwide who have both the resources to acquire it and the desire to own it. But those few collectors may compete fiercely, driving the price to levels that seem incomprehensible to outsiders. The value is real, in the sense that documented transactions have occurred at these price points. But it's important to understand that not every 1974 quarter, or even every 1974 error quarter, will achieve such values. The highest prices are reserved for pieces that represent the absolute pinnacle of rarity and quality. A 1974 quarter with a minor off-center strike in circulated condition might be worth $500 or $1,000. Still a nice find, but nowhere near millions. A 1974 quarter with a major error, but showing wear and contact marks might reach 5 or 6 figures. Only those pieces that combine dramatic errors with essentially perfect preservation reach the stratospheric values we've discussed today, and those pieces are so rare that most collectors will never even see one in person, let alone own one. But here's the thing that makes this hobby so exciting and accessible. You don't need to find a $178 million coin to benefit from this knowledge. Even finding a moderately scarce error worth a few hundred or a few $1,000s can be incredibly rewarding, both financially and emotionally. The thrill of discovery, the satisfaction of recognizing something valuable that others missed, the connection to history and the minting process, these aspects of coin collecting bring joy to millions of people regardless of the monetary values involved. And who knows, maybe, just maybe, you'll be the lucky person who checks their change one day and finds that 1 in a billion coin that changes everything. As we conclude this deep dive into these 4 incredible Washington quarters, let's recap what makes them so special and what you should remember moving forward. The 1995P at $122 million, the 1990P at $136 million, the 1981P at $153 million, and the 1974 at $178 million. These coins represent the pinnacle of modern era coinage, combining dramatic minting mistakes with exceptional preservation to create pieces that are truly irreplaceable. The common threads among them are significant errors that dramatically alter the coin's appearance, gem uncirculated condition indicating they somehow avoided circulation despite being released from the mint, and professional authentication and grading confirming their status as genuine rarities rather than damaged or altered pieces. If you take nothing else from this video, remember these key points. Always check your quarters carefully, especially those for 1974, 1981, 1990, and 1995. Look for unusual strike characteristics, weight variations, and design abnormalities. Use magnification and weight measurements to identify potential errors. Never clean a coin that might be valuable. And seek expert opinions before making assumptions about what you found. The world of rare coins is filled with stories of ordinary people who made extraordinary discoveries simply because they knew what to look for and paid attention to the change in their pockets. You could be next. This could be your year to find a coin that changes your life forever. Keep your eyes open, stay informed, and never stop looking because somewhere out there, these incredible coins are still waiting to be discovered. Thank you for watching Error Coins Hunter, and remember, fortune favors the observant, so check every quarter you encounter because you never know when you might be holding a treasure worth millions. If you found this information valuable, make sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share it with anyone who handles coins regularly. Because the more people who know about these rarities, the more likely they'll be identified and preserved for future generations. Until next time, happy hunting, and may your change always be filled with hidden treasures.